I always thought the smell of fresh coffee was my favorite part of mornings. Not anymore. Now, when I smell it, I think of him, Martin, standing in our kitchen in his robe, humming softly while the kettle hissed. But this morning, the aroma feels tainted, like the beans themselves know something I don't. Or rather, something I'm just beginning to know. I wasn't looking for trouble that morning. I wasn't the kind of wife who snooped through her husband's phone or questioned where he'd been. We'd been married for 21 years, and although the shine of passion had dulled, I thought we had safety, a rhythm, predictability. But that rhythm felt off lately. Martin had started showering twice a day, and not the "I just went to the gym" kind of showers. He doesn't go to the gym. He also started putting cologne on before leaving for late meetings at work. And then there was his phone, always face down on the table, always on silent. It was small things at first, but small things pile up. That morning, I'd been cleaning the kitchen counters when his phone, left behind for once, lit up with a message. My heart didn't jump, at least, not at first. We were a married couple. A message from a colleague wouldn't mean anything, but my eyes caught a flash of a name I didn't recognize. Isabel. The preview showed just 2 words. Can't wait. I shouldn't have. But my hand moved on its own. I unlocked the phone. He'd never changed his passcode. Still the birth date of his late mother. And there it was. Message after message, some mundane, some not so much. Her. Last night was amazing. Him. I keep thinking about your smile. Her. We shouldn't talk here. Let's do the cafe again Friday. My breath went shallow. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I didn't read further. I couldn't. I placed it back exactly where he'd left it, but the kitchen suddenly felt alien, like every chair and countertop had shifted 2 inches to the left. It's strange how quickly the world changes when you learn the truth. Martin came home that evening whistling, carrying a bottle of wine and a bouquet of tulips, my favorite. The sight made bile rise in my throat. For the first time in years, I really looked at him. His hair had more gray in it now, but his smile was as smooth as ever, and it was a smile I suddenly realized I didn't know anymore. "Rough day?" he asked, kissing me on the cheek. I smiled back, and the muscles in my face felt foreign. Not really. We had dinner like nothing had happened, like I didn't have the ghost of another woman's perfume in my mind. I even laughed at his joke about the neighbor's dog. And when he reached for my hand across the table, I didn't pull away. I just squeezed it, like I was holding on to the last shred of the life I thought I had. That night, lying beside him, I stared at the ceiling. My mind replayed his messages over and over. Every "I love you" he'd ever said to me now felt like a counterfeit bill, something I had accepted without checking if it was real. I thought about confronting him right then, shaking him awake and shoving his phone in his face, but there was something in me, something I didn't recognize, that held me back. Instead, I decided I needed to know everything. Over the next week, I became an actress in my own home. I laughed when I needed to laugh, nodded when I needed to nod. I asked him about work and listened as if I cared about the mergers and client meetings. I now suspected were code for something else. But when he wasn't around, I went through his phone, his emails, his calendar. And what I found made me realize this wasn't just a fling. They had routines. The cafe every Friday, the hotel by the river every other Thursday, long phone calls at midnight when he said he was catching up with his brother. I even found an old photo of them together. She was younger than me, mid-30s maybe, with dark hair and a smile that looked like she knew she was being adored. It's not just the betrayal that hurts, it's the replacement. One night, after another one of his late meetings, I stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes. He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist like he used to when we were younger. "Everything okay?" he murmured into my ear. I almost laughed. Was everything okay? Nothing was okay, but I just nodded. Just tired. He kissed my neck. I let him, and in that moment I realized I had a choice. confront him and shatter everything right now or wait until I had the upper hand. I chose the latter. I started documenting everything: screenshots, emails, receipts I found in his pockets. I even followed him one Thursday. I felt ridiculous sitting in my car across from the hotel, watching him step out in that blue shirt I used to love. I watched her join him, her hand slipping into his as they walked in together. And I sat there, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white, feeling like the woman I had been for the past 21 years had just died. But here's the thing about dying inside. It leaves room for someone new to be born. By the time they came out 2 hours later, laughing like a couple of teenagers, I had already decided exactly how this was going to end. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even ask him where he'd been. I made him tea, we watched a TV show together, and when he fell asleep on the couch, I just looked at him. Not the man I married, but the man who thought I'd never find out. And as I stood there, I realized the coffee in the morning, the dinners, the small talk. They were all props in a play I no longer wanted to be in. But I wasn't going to storm off stage. Number I was going to rewrite the ending. People imagine betrayal as a loud thing, shouting, slamming doors, tears staining the carpet. In reality, it's quiet. It's the way you sit across from someone at breakfast and watch them butter their toast, knowing that just 12 hours ago, their mouth was on someone else's skin. It's the silence that weighs more than words. I didn't tell anyone, not my sister, not my best friend. I didn't want pity. I didn't want the head tilt, the sympathetic squeeze of the hand. I wanted control. If I had learned anything in 21 years of marriage, it was that Martin hated two things: public embarrassment and losing money. Those would be my weapons. So I started small. First, I made copies of everything: our bank statements, the mortgage paperwork, his retirement accounts. I opened a separate account in my name. I didn't move any money yet, but knowing it was there felt like loading bullets into a gun I hadn't fired. Then I booked an appointment with a divorce lawyer just to explore my options. The woman, sharp-eyed, calm, listened as I laid it all out. When I told her I had screenshots, receipts, and even photos, she smiled slightly. "You're in a strong position," she said. "If you want out, you can get the house, a fair share of the assets, and alimony. But I need you to keep collecting evidence, and don't let him know you're aware." That was fine with me. I could wear this mask a little longer. Martin, meanwhile, was thriving. At least that's how it looked from the outside. He whistled more. He worked out of the house late more often. He even started suggesting we take a trip together this winter, somewhere warm. I almost laughed when he said it. One night, he came home smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. I was cooking pasta, stirring the sauce as he leaned against the counter, scrolling on his phone. "You're in a good mood lately," I said. He grinned. "Work's going well. Things are good." I looked at him, at the lines around his eyes I once thought were charming. Now they just looked like cracks in a mask. "I'm glad." I think he heard the emptiness in my voice because his eyes flicked up for a second. But then he went back to scrolling, and I went back to stirring. The more I watched him, the more I realized I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry, not in the way people expect. I felt detached, like I was watching a movie and I already knew the ending. But there were moments, little flashes, when the grief would punch me in the gut. Like the night I found an old anniversary card in my dresser, one where he'd written, "You're my forever." I sat on the floor holding it, and for a second I wanted to tear it into pieces. Instead, I put it back, because when the time came, I wanted him to see it. I wanted him to remember what he'd thrown away. By the third week of my quiet investigation, I knew her last name, Isabel Kane. 34, works in marketing, lives in a condo downtown. I'd never met her, but I'd seen her Instagram. Pictures of her in little black dresses, wine glasses in hand, captions about living her best life. There was one photo that stopped me cold. She was at the cafe they always went to, sitting at a corner table, smiling at someone just outside the frame. I didn't have to guess who it was. I started to plan the confrontation. It wouldn't be in the house. I didn't want him in a space that felt like mine. It wouldn't be private either. He'd thrive on controlling the scene if it was just us. No, this had to happen where he couldn't escape. I booked a dinner for his birthday at a nice restaurant downtown, the kind with white tablecloths and waiters who refill your water every 5 minutes. I told him I wanted it to be just us, a romantic evening. He smiled, kissed me, and said it sounded perfect. It was perfect, just not for the reason he thought. In the days leading up to it, I rehearsed, not just what I'd say, but how I'd sit, how I'd look at him. I wanted calm. I wanted precision. I wanted him to feel every ounce of the quiet rage I'd been swallowing for weeks. The night came. I wore a red dress I hadn't worn in years, one that made me feel like I was 28 again. He looked at me with genuine surprise when I walked down the stairs. "You look, wow," he said. I smiled. "Happy birthday." At the restaurant, we ordered wine. We made small talk about the food, the music, the weather. He didn't notice that I wasn't eating much. Halfway through the meal, I reached into my bag and pulled out a small envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "A gift," I said, sliding it across the table. He opened it. Inside was a neatly printed stack of screenshots, his messages to Isabel. I'd chosen the ones that were unmistakable. No room for him to twist the words. His face drained of color. "What the hell is this?" I leaned back in my chair. "Evidence." He glanced around, realizing for the first time that we weren't in the corner. We were in the center of the room. People could see us. He lowered his voice. "We should talk about this at home." I shook my head. "Number. We'll talk about it here." For the next 20 minutes, I told him everything I knew. Dates, times, places, the hotel, the cafe, her name, her job, his lies. He tried to deny it at first, then tried to blame me. Said I'd been distant, that we'd lost our spark. But I didn't give him the satisfaction of rising to it. "This isn't about me," I said. "This is about you, and I want you to know before you say another word that I've spoken to a lawyer. I have everything I need." The way his jaw tightened told me he understood exactly what that meant. When the check came, I paid for it. He didn't argue. We walked out of the restaurant in silence. Outside, the air was cool, the city buzzing around us. "Can we try to work through this?" he asked finally, his voice small. I looked at him for a long moment. The man I'd built a life with, the man who thought he could keep me in the dark forever. "No," I said, "we can't." And I walked away, leaving him standing there under the streetlight, holding the envelope. That night, I slept better than I had in years, because the quiet war was over. The morning after the restaurant, Martin didn't come home. I woke up to sunlight spilling through the blinds, the sheets cool on his side of the bed. There was no note, no text, no apology waiting for me, and that was fine. I didn't need one anymore. By 10 o'clock, I'd packed 2 suitcases, his clothes, his shoes, his shaving kit, and left them neatly by the front door. Beside them, I placed the envelope of screenshots. I didn't write a single word. When he finally came by that afternoon, I was in the kitchen making coffee. He stood in the doorway looking like a man who'd aged 10 years overnight. "So that's it?" he said. I poured myself a cup and took a slow sip. "That's it." "I don't have anywhere to go." I shrugged. "You've got Isabel." He flinched, and I knew I'd hit the mark. The next weeks were a blur of paperwork and lawyers. I stayed calm, meticulous, answering every question my attorney asked, signing every document she put in front of me. Martin tried to bargain, then to plead, then to stall. But when the evidence was this clear, stalling was just delaying the inevitable. He fought hardest over the house. "It's ours," he kept saying. "No," I corrected him. "It's mine now." By the end of it, I had the house, half the savings and monthly alimony that would keep me comfortable for as long as I needed. He had a small apartment downtown, a dented ego, and, presumably, Isabel. It's funny. People expect the end of a marriage to be the end of a person's life, too. They expect you to disappear into some quiet grief, to wear that divorced label like a scarlet letter. But I didn't disappear. I started living. The first thing I did was repaint the living room. I went with a deep, bold green, the kind of color Martin would have hated. I got rid of the beige couch, replaced it with something bright and soft, something I could sink into with a book and a glass of wine. I took long baths, cooked for myself, went to the movies alone. I stopped wearing the kind of perfume he liked and started wearing the kind I liked, spicy, with a hint of vanilla. And every morning I made coffee. And for the first time in years, I drank it without thinking of him. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Isabel. It was at the grocery store, of all places. She was standing in the produce section holding a bag of apples, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. For a moment, she didn't see me, but when she did, she froze. I walked right up to her. "Isabel, right?" She blinked, clearly panicked. Yes. "I'm Claire," I said. "Martin's ex-wife." Her lips parted, but no words came out. "I just wanted to thank you," I said, my voice even. She frowned. "For what?" "For taking him off my hands." I left her standing there between the apples and the pears, her cheeks red, her mouth still open. And as I walked away, I realized that moment wasn't about her at all. It was about me. I'd taken back the narrative. There were lonely nights, of course. Nights when I'd lie in bed and wonder if anyone would ever love me the way I used to believe Martin did. But the truth is, I stopped needing that. I started traveling. First small trips, then bigger ones. A week in Italy, wandering the cobblestone streets of Florence. A weekend in the mountains, waking up to mist and birdsong. I read more books in 6 months than I had in the last decade. I met new people. I went on a few dates, none of which led anywhere, and I was okay with that. Because for the first time in my adult life, I belonged entirely to myself. 6 months after it all began, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine, watching the sun sink behind the trees. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, the one who trusted blindly, who thought forever was a promise carved in stone. That woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger, sharper, more alive. People say betrayal breaks you. They're wrong. Betrayal doesn't break you, it burns you down. And if you're lucky, you rise from the ashes. The last time I saw Martin, it was purely by accident. I was walking out of a bookstore when he came out of a cafe across the street. He looked older, thinner. Isabel wasn't with him. For a moment, our eyes met. He smiled faintly, like maybe we could still be something. Friends, acquaintances, whatever scraps people settle for. I didn't smile back. I just walked past him, my heels clicking on the pavement, my heart steady. And as I turned the corner, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything. I was free. It's been a year now. A year since I stood in that restaurant with my heart pounding and my voice steady, handing Martin the envelope that ended our marriage. I can still remember the exact moment I walked away from him, how the streetlight cut a circle of gold around him, how small he looked inside it. Sometimes I wonder if he remembers it too, if he replays it in his mind the way I do. But then I remind myself, it doesn't matter. Because this story was never really about him. It was always about me. I didn't realize it at first. In those early weeks, I thought my life had been reduced to ruins. I was half expecting to collapse, to spend nights crying into my pillow, to lose myself in the way people say divorce can hollow you out. But that never happened. Instead, I found myself sitting in quiet rooms and realizing I could breathe again. There was no tension, no silent suspicion pressing at the edges of my mind. No waiting for his key in the lock, no watching his eyes flicker away when I asked a question. There was only me, and at first, that was terrifying. I started small. I bought flowers for myself every week, sunflowers, lilies, roses, just to remind myself that beauty didn't have to come from someone else's hands. I went to bed with the window open, feeling the cool night air on my skin, something Martin always hated. I began writing in a journal every morning, just a page or two. At first, they were lists, things I needed to do, groceries to buy, but then they turned into thoughts, dreams, even confessions I'd never said aloud. One morning, I wrote, "I am not broken. I am becoming." It was the truest thing I'd put on paper in years. In the spring, I joined a hiking group, Me, someone who used to scoff at the idea of spending hours climbing uphill for fun. But the first time I reached the top of a trail and looked out over a valley lit with morning light, I felt something shift inside me. Up there, it didn't matter that I was divorced. It didn't matter that Martin had betrayed me. All that mattered was that my legs had carried me, my lungs had pushed me, my heart had kept me going, and I realized I could trust my own strength in a way I never had before. There were still moments when the old life crept in, like the day I found one of Martin's old sweaters tucked in the back of the closet, smelling faintly of his cologne. I almost pressed it to my face, almost let the memory pull me under. But instead, I put it in the donation box. Or the afternoon I heard a song we used to dance to in the kitchen. I stood there, frozen, for a minute. Then I let it play, and I danced by myself. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the past doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. Last month, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a long time, longer than I usually do. I studied my face, lines at the corners of my eyes, a faint crease between my brows, silver strands threading through my hair. I didn't see a woman who'd been left. I saw a woman who had left a life that no longer fit her. There's a difference. Sometimes people ask me if I'd ever forgive Martin. The truth? I already have. Not because he deserves it, but because I deserve peace. Holding on to anger would keep me tied to him, and I have no interest in being tethered to that chapter of my life. I don't wish him well. I don't wish him harm. I wish him nothing at all. And maybe that's the real victory. Not the house, not the alimony, not the trips I take now without asking anyone's permission. The real victory is that I don't wake up thinking about him anymore. I wake up thinking about the book I'm reading, the dinner I'll cook, the places I'll go next. I wake up thinking about me. On my last birthday, I took myself to Paris. I drank champagne at noon, walked along the Seine at sunset, and stood at the top of the Eiffel Tower with the wind in my hair. I didn't post pictures for anyone. I didn't send updates. That trip was mine alone. On the flight home, I wrote one last line in my journal before closing it. I am not the same woman who found those messages. I'm someone better. Tonight, I'm sitting on my porch again, the same place I sat months ago when I realized I'd survived. The cicadas are humming, the air is warm, and my wine glass is sweating in my hand. Inside, on the kitchen counter, a fresh bouquet of tulips is sitting in a vase. I bought them for myself. And as I watch the sun dip below the horizon, I think about how endings aren't really endings at all. They're just invitations to write a new story.